Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gauravirbhava Bhumestvam Nirdesha Sajjana Priya Vaishtava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathayate Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishtavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishay Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jaitam Surator Pangur Mamanda Mater Gati Matsarvasvabadam Bojau Radha Madana Mohano Divya Dvrindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prashtralibi Sevyamano Smarami Sriman Rasarasarambhi Vamshivata Tatastitaha Karsham Veno Swaner Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestunah Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we have been discussing the 6th chapter, 2nd canto. Now in the 3rd verse, we saw that how Sarvasunam cha vayoscha tannase paramayane Ashvinur Aushadinam cha grano moda pramodayoho. So, from the universal form, the nose and the smelling power, both are different. That is why we see that from tannase, from the nasa means the nose, nostrils of the universal form. Who came? Vayu came, Vayu Devata, Mukhya Prana came. And from the Grana means the smelling power, the sense of smell. Yesterday we discussed there is a distinction between the sense of smell and the instrument of the smell. So the breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance, came out from them. Now we go to the 3rd verse. Rupanam tejasam chakshur divaha suryasya chakshini karno disham jatirthanam shotram akasha shabdhayoh. If you see, there are 2 things here. Chakshu and akshini. So what is the difference between chakshu and akshini? See the translation, word to word meaning you'll find out. Eyes and eyeball. So you got the difference. Eye and eyeball. So akshini is the eyeball. Chakshu is the eye. So what came from the chakshu of Krishna, of the universal form? Rupanam, or forms, and tejas means tejas, fire. So there is a connection between fire and form. Connection between fire and form. Because the form is a subtle form of fire. The form is a subtle form of fire. So the tanmatras are the subtle forms of the gross elements. What is the subtle form of earth? Smell. Like that, water, taste. Same way, the fire element has its subtle form. What is it? Form. From form comes fire. So that is why form is a subtle form of fire. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that is fire. The form of a woman is like fire. Dushpurena analena cha. So when you see some form, there is a fire in your consciousness. Instigates. Any form instigates fire. That is why the forms of this world are very dangerous. You are peacefully walking. As soon as you see some form, a young boy sees a form of a young woman, then immediately there is a fire, Kamagni, in his consciousness. When a person is walking peacefully and doing a lot of work, he sees some food. What happens? Jatragni, the form. And these forms are externally seen by grossly, and they are also present in the mind. So that is how these two are connected. Rupanam chesam chishu. That is why we should be very careful. Krishna talks about it in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says that what is that? Param drishtva nivartade vishaya vinivartante niraharasya deinaha. So these forms are actually ahara. Niraharasya deina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So when you are thinking of the forms of Krishna, the spiritual forms, then there is spiritual fire. Material forms, material fire. Diva suryasya chakshini. Akshini means chakshur, and then akshini, the eyeball. From the eyeball of Krishna, what came out? What is written there? Divaha means the sun or anything which glitters. And Surya, the sun. These two things are gross. So gross things gives gross things. Eyeball is a gross thing. So what came out is gross. And the power of eye, or the sense of eye, sense of sight is subtle. So subtle things came. That is rupa and form. Rupam and tejasam. And then now again you see karna means the ear. And shrotram. What is the meaning of shrotram? The sense of hearing. That is a power, it is subtle. And what is the gross one? Karna, the ear. The ENT specialist. So he doesn't deal with the ear. They are totally confused about it. Totally confused about it. So he is an ENT specialist. Ear, nose, throat. He is specialist about it. But he doesn't know what's happening, how the ear functions. Somebody who has a ear cannot hear. Somebody who has a ear also doesn't hear. Pashyan napina pashyati. Shrunman napina shrunmati. What is that verse? Atmano hitam. Huh? No, Atmano, the 6th canto, 1st chapter. Atmano hitam. Janan napina janan. What is that full verse? I am not able to. I don't know what's happening today. You're not getting the verse. Pashyannapi drishtva shutabhyam janannapi yet ahito atmano hitam. Atmano, even he knows atmano hitam, but still is not able to. It's like that. Karno disham satirthanam. From the ears of Krishna, all the Dig Devatas came. Dig Devatas. What are the Dig Devatas? The presiding deities of directions. You have 10 directions, 8 lateral and 2 vertical. You have northeast, southwest and northeast, like that. Like this is the northeast. Ishana. This is northeast. This is where the presiding deity is Ishana. One of the 5 forms of Lord Shiva. Shiva has got 5 heads. One is Ishana. So, and then you have east. And then you have southeast. and then south. Yama is there. And then you have Nivritti. It is southwest direction. Southwest is the controlling position. Like you have Vastu. Yeah, and then there is up and down, Akasha and then Nabha and then Adha. So these directions were born, and the presiding deity of these directions. Tirthanam also has many meanings, but it refers to the Vedic literatures. And Shrotram, from the subtle sense of Shrotram, Akasha and Shabdayo. We know Akasha and Shabda both are connected with each other. That is ether and sound. From the sound comes ether. So these two are connected with each other. Then go to the fourth verse. Tadgatram vastu saranam saubhagyasya cha bhajanam tvagasya sparshavayoscha sarvam idasya chaivahi. Now Tadgatram. Gatra means body. From the body of the universal form, Vastu Saranam. Very interesting word. See, Vastu Saranam. What is the meaning of Vastu Saranam? Vastu Sara means the particular potency of an object. The active principle of all articles. Prabhupada talks about the active principle. Now, according to the Vedic understanding of an object, that is dravya or object, it is understood that every dravya has a particular potency. Every object has a potency. When the Sankhyas, or those who are brought up in the Vedic tradition, when they see object, they don't see the object, they see its potency. So that is how it gives a lot of flexibility for the Vedic physicist to use the potency. Like this table. Now, somebody who is trained in modern so-called science, they say this is a table because, it has got four strands, it has got something like this. They look at the form and then see it's a table. But the one who is trained in the Vedic Gurukul system, traditionally, they say it is a table not because it looks like a table, because it has a potency to do the function of a table. So, you call it Vastu Saranam. Every object has a potency. Very interesting. We see things. And after so much of research or breaking their head, they came to some understanding of this. E equal to mc square, mass energy equation, isn't it? Mass means every object is mass, and it has connection with energy. So mass energy connection is already there in the Vedas. So gatram tad vastu saran, tad gatram vastu saranam. Every medicine has a potency, unique potency. So that potency is used. They see the chemicals in it. But we don't see, the Vedic people, they don't see the chemicals within. They see the potency. Okay. Saubhagyasya cha bhajanam. And now this form of Krishna, the universal form, how it is? It is saubhaga. Saubhaga means it gives all auspiciousness. It is a source of all auspiciousness. That is why when a devotee sees any object in this world, he sees the potency behind it and the potency coming from Krishna. That is why Tavara Jangama Deki Na Deki Tara Murti. So they don't see the form, they see the potency, and ultimately all potency is coming from Krishna. So Bhagyascha Bhajanam Tvag. Now you have the body is covered by what? Skin. Tvagasya Sparshavayoscha Sarva Medhasya Chaivahi. So what all came from the skin? Touch. Also all the sacrifices, Medhasya, they all came from him, from the skin of the of the universal form. Next. Roman udbijajatinam yerva yajnastu samvritaha kesha samrashu laksha isya shila lobha pratap vidyutam. Somebody read the translation and purport.
The hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation, particularly those trees which are required as ingredients for sacrifice. The hairs on his head and face are reservoirs for the clouds, and his nails are the breeding ground of electricity, stones, and iron ores.
Yeah, read the translation also.
Purport. The polished nail of the Lord generates electricity, and the clouds rest on the hairs of his heads. One can therefore collect all sorts of necessity of life from the person of the Lord, and therefore the Veda affirms that everything that is produced is caused by the Lord. The Lord is the supreme cause of all causes.
Yes. And one verse, one line verse. Bahavo lokapalanam prayashaha kshema karmanam. So the arms of Krishna, from them who manifested? The demigods. They came, especially Indra. Those who protect all the living entities. They manifested. So read the purport, translation purport.
Translation. The Lord's arms are the productive field for the great demigods and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general mass. Purport. This important verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is corroborated and nicely explained in Bhagavad Gita 10.41-42 as follows. Yad yad vibhuti matsatvam Srimad
Urjitameva va tad eva vigachatvam mama tejom shambhavam
athava bhutami kim jani tato arjuna vistam krishnam ekam shena sthito jagat. There are many powerful kings, leaders, learned scholars, scientists, artists, engineers, inventors, excavators, archaeologists, industrialists, politicians, economists, business magnates, and many more powerful deities or demigods like Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Surya, Varun, and Marut, who are all protecting the interest of the universal affairs of maintenance in different positions. And all of them are different powerful parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is the father of all living entities who are placed in different high and low positions according to their desires or aspirations. Some of them, as particularly mentioned above, are specifically endowed with powers by the will of the Lord. A sane person must know for certain that a living being, however powerful he may be, is neither absolute nor independent. All living beings must accept the origin of the specific power as mentioned in this verse. And if they act accordingly, then simply by discharging their respective occupation duties, they can achieve the highest perfection of life, namely eternal life, complete knowledge, and inexhaustible blessings. As long as the powerful men of the world do not accept the origin of their respective powers, namely the personality of Godhead, the actions of Maya, illusion, will continue to act. The actions of Maya are such that a powerful person, misled by the illusory material energy, wrongly accepts himself as all in all and does not develop God consciousness. As such, the false sense of egoism, namely myself and mine, has become overly prominent in the world, and there is a hard struggle for existence in human society. The intelligent class of men therefore must admit the Lord as the ultimate source of all energies and thus pay tribute to the Lord for his good blessings. Simply by accepting the Lord as the supreme proprietor of everything, since he is actually so, one can achieve the highest perfection of life. Whatever a person may be in the estimation of the social order of things, if a person tries to reciprocate a feeling of love towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is satisfied with the blessings of the Lord, he will at once feel the highest peace of mind for which he is hankering life after life. Peace of mind, or in other words, the healthy state of mind, can be achieved only when the mind is situated in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord. The parts and parcels of the Lord are endowed with specific powers for rendering service unto the Lord, just as a big business magnate son are empowered with specific powers of administration. The obedient son of the Father never goes against the will of the Father, and therefore passes life very peacefully in concurrence with the head of the family, the Father. Similarly, the Lord, being the Father of all living beings, should fully and satisfactorily discharge the duty and will of the Lord, of the Father, as faithful sons. This very mentality will at once bring peace and prosperity to human society.
Next. Vikramo bhurvasvascha kshemasya sharanasya cha sarvakamavarasyapi harescharnaspadam. So the forward step of the Lord, that is called Vikramaha. This forward step is nothing but the three planetary systems. That is Bhur, that is the earthly planetary system. And there is Bhuvar, Loka. Above it there is Yakshas, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, they stay. And beyond that there is Swarga. So these three. And Kshemasya, Sharanasya cha, Sarvakama, Varasyapi, Haresh, Charanaspadam. And the lotus feet of the Lord, they are the shelter for everyone. Read the purport. Seventh.
For absolute protection from all sorts of fear, as well as for all our needs of life, we must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not only in this planet but also in all the upper, lower and heavenly planets. This absolute dependence on the lotus feet of the Lord is called pure devotional service, and it is directly hinted at within this passage. No one should have any kind of doubt in this matter, nor should one be inclined to seek the help of any other demigods, because all of them are dependent on Him only. Everyone except the Lord Himself is dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Even the all-pervading Supersoul is also dependent on the supreme aspect of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead.
Okay. Abhameryasya sargasya parjanyasya parajapate punasishnu upastastu prajapyatananda nivrutehe. So from the genitals of the Lord, what came? Water, semen, creation, and all these things came. And Prajapati is also, Daksha came from him. And Prajapati Daksha is the presiding deity of all these things. And from the sense organ of generation, Punas Sishna means actually the linga of the Lord. What came out? There was the destruction of pain. Means in the material world, everybody is trying to enjoy sex pleasure. So that the sex pleasure came. Tu prajaptya ananda nivritti. Please read purport.
The genitals and the pleasure of begetting counteract the distresses of family encumbrances. One would cease to generate altogether if there were not, by the grace of the Lord, a coating, a pleasure-giving substance on the surface of the generative organs. This substance gives a pleasure to intense that it counteracts fully the distress of family encumbrances. A person is so captivated by this pleasure-giving substance that he is not satisfied by begetting a single child, but increases the number of children, with great risk in regard to maintaining them, simply for this pleasure-giving substance. This pleasure-giving substance is not false, however, because it originates from the transcendental body of the Lord. In other words, the pleasure-giving substance is a reality, but it has taken on an aspect of pervertedness on account of material contamination. In the material world, sex life is the cause of many distresses on account of material contact. Therefore, the sex life in the material world should not be encouraged beyond the necessity. There is a necessity for generating progeny even in the material world, but such a generation of children must be carried out with full responsibility for spiritual values. The spiritual values of life can be realized in the human form of material existence, and the human being must adopt family planning with reference to the context of spiritual values and not otherwise. The degraded form of family restriction by use of contraceptives, etc., is the grossest type of material contamination. Materialists who use these devices want to fully utilize the pleasure potency of the coating on the genitals by artificial means without knowing the spiritual importance. And without knowledge of spiritual values, the less intelligent man tries to utilize only the material sense pleasure of the genitals.
Oh. Ayuryamasya mitrasya varimokshasya narada himyasya mitrer nrityor nirasyasya gudam smritaha. Read the translation.
O Narada, the evacuating outlet of the universal form of the Lord is the abode of the controlling deity of death, Mitra, and the evacuating hole and the rectum of the Lord is the place of envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc.
Okay. Next. Parabhutera dharmasya tamasasyapi paschimaha nadyo nadyanadinam cha gotranam asti samhatihi. Read the translation purport both.
The back of the Lord is the place for all kinds of frustration and ignorance, as well as for immorality. From his veins flow the great rivers and rivulets, and on his bones are stacked the great mountains.
So the adharma comes from the back part of the Lord. So you should not show back to somebody. Neither you should keep the big bad back. Back like this. It's not good. Just to put it like this. Very back we should never show to anyone. Showing the back means it is disrespect. Many times in temples also you find somebody who is cultured, they don't show the back to the Lord. They walk back. And you cannot walk back all the way. At least what you should do, you should show your face to the Lord and then take 2 steps back and then turn back and come. That at least you say, Upcharikta you can do. But many temples, they don't even show the back to the Lord. Even Garbhagriha sometimes people don't do. In some other sampradayas. Especially in Nimbarik sampradaya, they don't show the face. They go like this, the pujari goes like this and comes back like this. I don't know if you have been to Vrindavan to some temples, Sriji temples, Nimbarakis, you must have seen, they would do that. They go like this and they come back like this. Of course, in the Pancharatric system set up by Ramanuja and Srila Prabhupada and all, we don't do that because service is more important there. The vidhi becomes subservient to the seva. So that's why in the altar we don't bother much about this thing. Like we have the story of Govinda. He crossed the feet of the Lord. That means he did Maryada Ullangan for the service of the Lord. But he did not come back because for his own service he will not do that. And okay, read the purport.
In order to defy the impersonal conception of Supreme Personality of Godhead, a systematic analysis of psychological and
in the Bhagavad Gita,
anatomical constitution of his transcendental body is given here. It is clear from the available description of the body of the Lord is universal form that the form of the Lord is distinct from the forms of the ordinary mundane conception. In any case, he is never a formless void. Ignorance is the back of the Lord, and therefore the ignorance of the less intelligent class of men is also not separate from his bodily conception. Since his body is the complete whole of everything that be, one cannot assert that he is impersonal only. On the contrary, the perfect description of the Lord holds that he is both impersonal and personal simultaneously. The personality of Godhead is the original feature of the Lord, and his impersonal emanation is but the reflection of his transcendental body. Those who are fortunate enough to have a view of the Lord, form of the Lord from the front can realize his personal feature, whereas those who are frustrated and are thus kept on the ignorant side of the Lord, or in other words, those who have the view of the Lord from the back, realize him in his impersonal feature.
Frustration is a philosophy of Buddhism which comes from Mayavad. Ultimately it comes from materialism. We have these three words: Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha, Manmaya, Mamupashrita, Bhavo Jnanatapasa, Puta, Madbhava Magata. So Krishna, he talks about it in the 4th chapter, Bhagavad Gita. If you read the purport, Srila Prabhupada defines these three terms in a very unique way. Raga, negligence of spiritual life because of material attachment. Bhaya, fear of personal identity. And Krodha, frustration arising due to fear. So materialism is raga. I love you, I cannot live without you. And then bhaya, then okay, I cannot meet you, I fear. Moment I hear the name, I am afraid of you. And then krodha, get frustrated. So that's what happens when a young boy meets a young girl, says, I love you, I cannot live without you. He gets married, and he's afraid of whom? Wife. Bhaya. And ultimately, divorce, krodha. The whole world just this. First is attachment, and then that leads to impersonalism, Mayavad philosophy, and then drugs, leads to drugs. That is Buddhism. That is why when Prabhupada went to America, everybody were Buddhists there, means followers of so-called Buddhism. They were taking drugs. Buddhism ultimately leads to drugs. The whole, you see all the rock music, pop music and all music, they write their songs by reading Buddhist books. And then, Dhammarodham, frustration. So it is all because they don't see the Lord from the front, they see from the back, which is adharma. Adharma means only three. One, that is materialism, impersonalism, and Buddhism. Three adharmas, source of all. And that comes from the back of the Lord. So when you come in the front of the Lord, then there is no adharma, because when in front of the Lord, Maya is not there. Krishna Suri Sama, Maya hoy, Andhakar. And behind Maya is there. Vilajamana Syat. She is very much ashamed to come in front of the Lord. That is why Maya is there standing behind Krishna. Apashat Purusham Purnam, Mayam cha tadapashrayam. Vyasa saw Maya standing behind Krishna, the back of Krishna. So if you go behind Krishna, then until unless we are actually at the platform of raga and personal associates, or at least assisting the personal associates of the Lord, we should not enter from the back of the deity. Backdoor entry is only for Krishna's Nijajana. But somehow in ISKCON we don't follow that kind of vastu, even for the Garbhagriha, what to speak of. It's very bad. I told in Meera Road, broke my head. Convenience. They made a door behind. Exactly Gauranitai, they make a door behind. Architectural convenience. No, it's not. Suppose from the front or from the sides, you should come there. So otherwise it is the dharma, coming from the back. Not good. Okay. Next. 11th verse. Avyakta rasa sindhunam bhutanam nidhanasya cha udaram viditam pumso hridayam manasapadam. So from the stomach of Krishna. Avyaktam rasa sindhunam bhutanam nidhanasya cha udaram. Udaram means from the stomach of Krishna. What all came, many things came. Ocean came first. That is why if you have any stomach problem, go to the ocean, take ocean bath. Yeah, very intimate connection. That is why you should go to ocean bath. Ocean bath is very auspicious. Ocean is Sarvatirtha. Sarvatirtha means all the tirthas, they enter into ocean, isn't it? But at the same time, not all the beaches are sacred. Whereas Narmada river, if you go on any bank, any inch of the bank is always sacred. It doesn't have to be made sacred. Jagannath Puri, there are certain places which are designated. You should go and take bath in the ocean. If you take ocean bath somewhere else, which there is no kshetra nearby, then it is not considered to be very auspicious. Of course, many places kshetras are there. We can take bath. Kanyakumari. You go and take bath. Rameshwaram, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went and took bath. There you can take bath there, then Dhanushkodi, then you will not take bath again in this world. Chaitanya Charitamrita says that. Jagannath Puri, if you go and take bath there, then it is Mahatirtha because Haridas Thakur Samadhi is there like that. At the same time, your stomach problems will also be cleared. Whatever you have eaten, all the pizzas and all the Manchurians and all whatever the things. Go to the ocean. I think Prabhupada mentions this also in the purports. In the 26th chapter, 3rd canto, Prabhupada talks about you go to the ocean and you take bath, stomach problem, because that came from what? In the same way, water problems you have from the moon. Morning we discussed. You see Krishna Chandra, it will go away. You're mentally upset, go in front of Krishna Chandra. Vrindavan Chandra, then go on. Sindhunam bhutanam nijanasya cha. And the food juices. Sindhunam bhutanam nijanasya cha udaram viditam pumso hridayam manasaspadam. And from the heart arose the mind of the man. From the heart of Krishna, the mind came into existence. Next. Where did it? Wait, it is got Avyaktas. Now you read the purport.
In the Bhagavad Gita 8.17-18, it is stated that according to human calculations, one day of Brahma is equal to 1000 ages of 4 millenniums. 43 lakhs years each, and the same period is calculated to be his night also. A Brahma lives for 100 such years and then dies. A Brahma, who is generally a great devotee of the Lord, attains liberation after such a downfall. The universe, called the Brahmanda, or the round football-like domain controlled by a Brahma, is thus annihilated, and thus the inhabitants of a particular planet or of the whole universe are also annihilated. Avyakta, mentioned here in this verse, means the night of Brahma, when partial annihilation takes place and the living entities of that particular Brahmanda, up to the planets of Brahmaloka, along with the big oceans, etc., all response in the belly of the Virat Purusha. At the end of Brahma's night, the creation again takes place, and the living entities reserved within the belly of the Lord are let loose to play their respective parts as if being awakened from a deep slumber. Since the living entities are never destroyed, the annihilation of the material world does not annihilate the existence of the living entities. But until liberation is attained, one has to accept one material body after another, again and again. The human life is meant for making a solution to this repeated change of bodies and thereby attaining a place in the spiritual sky. where everything is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. In other words, the subtle forms of the living entities take place in the heart of the Supreme Being, and such forms take tangible shape at the time of creation.
Dharmasya mama dobhyam cha kumaranam bhavasya cha vijnasya cha sattvasya parasyatma parayanam. Dharmasya mama dobhyam cha kumaranam bhavasya cha. Who are all been described? Yourself, that means dharmasya means Yamaraj, mama mine, tubhyam yours, and then kumaranam all the kumaras, bhava that is Lord Shiva, and transcendental knowledge, sattvasya parasya atmaparayanam. So everything came from the consciousness of the Lord, all these things. Okay, next. Now he counts many things in this world, and then Purush Sukta description starts. Aham bhavam bhavaschaiva taime munayograja sura sura nara naga kaga mriga sprita gandharvapsaro yaksha raksho bhuta anukara prasavaha pitaras siddha vidyadharascharanadruma anye cha vividha jiva chalastala nabhukasha nakshatra ketvas taditah stana itpadha sarvam purusha vedam bhutam bhavyam bhavachayat tenedam avrutam vishvam vitasatim dishtati. Okay, read the translation only.
Beginning from me, Brahma, down to you and Bhava, Shiva, all the great sages who were born before you, the demigods, the demons, the nagas, the human beings, the birds, the beasts, as well as the reptiles, etc., and all the phenomenal manifestations of the universes, namely the planets, stars, asteroids, luminaries, lightning, thunder, and the inhabitants of the different planetary systems, namely the Gandharvas, Apsaras, Yaksha, Rakshas, Bhutangas, Urgras, Pasus, Pitas, Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and all other different varieties of living entities, including the birds, beasts, trees, and everything that be, are all covered by the universal form of the Lord at all times, namely past, present, and future. Although he is transcendental to all of them, eternally existing in a form not exceeding 9 inches.
Okay. So now how the Lord is this world is described. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter that Avyakta Murtina Maya Tatamidam. Maya Tatam, Maya by me, Atatam means I am everywhere, spread everywhere. The word Atma comes from the word Atatam iti Atma. The thing is which is all pervading. It's called Atma. Atatam iti Atma. A means tatam. A means everywhere. Tatam means present. One means present everywhere, spread everywhere. It's called Atatam. Maya tatam, Atatam. How Jagadavyakta Murtina. I got in the form of unmanifested form of mind, Jagadavyakta Murtina. Matsthani Sarabhutani. All the living entities are present in me. And then Nachaham Teshu Avastitaha. I am not in them. Everybody is in me, but I am not in them. Next, immediately what does it say? Nachamatstani Bhutani. Pashyame Yogameshwar. So, Pashyame, you see my Yogam Aishwarya, the opulence. If you see yesterday, in the first line, Prabhupada talks about purport, first verse purport. In this chapter, what is described? The opulences of the Lord are described. So, the opulence of the Lord is His all-pervasive nature. How He has pervaded everywhere in the form of different things. So, He is everything. At the same time, He is beyond everything. He is everything, at the same time, He is beyond everything. He is everywhere. He is non-different from this world because this world is His energy. Shakti, Man, abheda, bheda, abheda. Shakti, Shaktiman, Bheda, Abheda, Prakash. So Shakti and Shaktiman, they are different at the same time one. So here when you see Shakti and Shaktiman, they are two, they are one, then the Lord, this world is the Lord. Of course, when the Vaishnavas say this world is the Lord, we say the world is the transformation of Krishna's energy. You heard about this anytime? Shakti Parinamavad. This is our philosophy. Our philosophy is what? Shakti Parinamavad. Parinama means transformation. So the Lord has potencies and the potencies transform into this world. They expand, they emanate, expand and transform. That is called Parinamavad. And the Mayavadis, they have one philosophy. Of course, they are not one kind of Mayavadis. There are hundreds of kinds of Mayavadis. One of their philosophies is Brahma Parinamavad. The Lord has transformed into this world. Now there is no God now. Where is the God? This world itself is the God. So you worship the world. So they also worship universal form, but it is imaginary. It is kalpanika. It is neither the spiritual universal form nor the material universal form. It is only imaginary. They think that one Brahman has transformed into this world. So we don't accept the Brahma Parinamavad. Ours is what? Shakti Parinamavad. So here, the Lord, you see, it is clearly said that what existed past, present and future is all the Lord Himself, is covered by the Lord. So, whatever forms you see, this fan is Krishna, this, everything is Krishna. What does it mean? It means it's energy. Now, if you see, the Purusha Sukta, Sahasra Irsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasravat Sabhumim Vishwato Vrutva Atyatishtaddashangulam Purusha Yevedagum Sarvam Yat Bhutam Yat Bhavyam Purusha Yevedagum Sarvam. You see the last verse of these three verses, these four verses. Last verse. What is the first line? No. Sarvam Purusham Evedam. Eva idam. Idam means this world. Whatever you find in this world, Sarvam, Purusha Eva He is Purusha Himself, is God Himself. Isn't it? So same thing, Purusha Sukta says, same words are used here. And Bhutam, Yatcha Bhavyam, Bhavachayam. Whatever is present, past and future, everything is Krishna. Now, Tenedam Mavritam Vishwam. Tenedam Mavritam Vishwam means what? Sahasra Sirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasravat Sabhumim. The word Bhumin there is being Vishwam here. Sabhumim Atyatishtati. What is the word used here? Aditishtati. In Purusha Sukta you have Atyatishtati. And now Vitasatim. There what is used? Atyatishtaddashangulam. 10 fingers. 10 fingers means 5 plus 5. These 10 fingers. Then how much it is? 9 inches probably. Cubics or something like that. So this is how it is. The Lord. So the Lord has expanded Himself into this world, every aspect of the world. At the same time is situated above. Aditishtati means He has kept Himself above this world, beyond this world. So this is what is the purport of this verse. Sabhumim Srishtva Atyadishtaddashangulam. So Krishna in His universal form is all pervading. At the same time is beyond the world. All, both to be understood. Okay, read the purport.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his partial representation, measuring not more than 9 inches as Supersoul, expands by his potential energy in the shape of the universal form, which includes everything manifested in different varieties of organic and inorganic materials. The manifested varieties of the universe are therefore not different from the Lord, just as golden ornaments of different shapes and forms are non-different from the original stock of reserve of gold. In other words, the Lord is the Supreme Person who controls everything within the creation, and still he remains the supreme separate identity, distinct from all manifested material creation. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.45, he is therefore said to be Yogeshwara. Everything rests on the potency of Lord Sri Krishna, and still the Lord is different from and transcendental to all such identities. In the Vedic Purusha Sukta of the Rig Mantra, this is also confirmed. This philosophical truth of simultaneous oneness and difference was propounded by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it is known as Achinta Bhedabhed Tattva. Brahma, Narada and all others are simultaneously one with the Lord and different from the Supreme Lord. We are all one with him, just as the gold ornaments are one in quality with the stock gold. But the individual gold ornament is never equal in quantity with the stock gold. The stock gold is never exhausted even if there are innumerable ornaments emanating from the stock, because the stock is Purnam, complete. Even if Purnam is deducted from the Purnam, still the Supreme Purnam remains the same Purnam. This fact is inconceivable to our present imperfect senses. Lord Chaitanya therefore defined his theory of philosophy as Achinta, inconceivable, and as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita as well as in the Bhagavatam, Lord Chaitanya's theory of Achinta Bhedabhed Tattva is perfect philosophy of the absolute truth.
When you hear this word, Achinta Bhedabhed Tattva, the first aspect of Achinta Bhedabhed Tattva is what? Shakti, Shaktiman, Bheda, Abheda, Prakash. Better to know these technical terms. And the other aspect of Achinta Bhedabhed Tattva is, the Achinta Bhedabhed Tattva is because of Shakti Parinamavad. Shakti Parinamavad. So it's a big philosophical problem which they had. How the Lord created this world. Krishna is Brahman, is beyond matter, and there is no matter in Brahman. Where did matter come from? Where did matter come from? So Ramanuja gives the example of the body and the soul. Like connection between the Supreme Lord and this world is like the body and the soul. The soul is in the body and it is beyond the body. At the same time, in the same way, the soul for the entire world is Krishna. But there is a problem here, like the soul becomes conditioned by the matter. As the Lord becomes conditioned, so then again to solve that, another example was given by Shuddhadvaitas. They're saying that the snake and the coil. Can you say the snake is the coil or the coil is the snake? When you say the snake has become coiled, it is coil. But the coil is because of the snake. But you cannot say the coil is the snake. The snake has taken the form of coil. But the coil and the snake are two different things. Then Madhvacharya comes and says, no, it is Bimba Pratibimba. Like you have the mirror. In the mirror you have the God standing in the mirror. So when God stands in the mirror, the Pratibimba is this world. And that Pratibimba of God is so real. So all these explanations were given. But ultimately Chaitanya comes and says, no, it is Shakti Parinamvad. So because then they said that if the Shakti of the Lord is getting transformed, then the Upanishads say that Brahman is Nirvikara. How can transformation be ascribed to Brahman? So then they told, no. The Lord has a potency which is untransformable, that is Chit. But because of the inconceivable potency of the Lord, this Chit potency has a shadow potency called Maya potency. And that gets transformed. So then there is no argument now further. Till now nobody has objected it. So there is a history of the philosophical thought process about the Ishvara Jada Sambandha, means the Supreme Lord, Ishvara, Jada, this material world, their connection. Next, 17th verse. Swadishyan pratanpan prano Vaishya pratapyatyaso Evam virajam pratapams tapatyantar bahipuman. Read the translation purport.
The sun illuminates both internally and externally by expanding its radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding His universal form, maintains everything in the creation, both internally and externally. Purport. The universal form of the Lord, or the impersonal feature of the Lord, known as the Brahma Jyoti, is clearly explained here and compared to the radiation of the sun. The sun sign may expand all over the universe, but the source of the sun sign, namely the sun planet or the deity known as Surya Narayan, is the basis of such radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the basis of the impersonal Brahma Jyoti radiation, or the impersonal feature of the Lord. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.27. So the universal form of the Lord is the secondary imagination of the impersonal form of the Lord. But the primary form of the Lord is the Syama Sundar, with two hands playing on his eternal flute. 75% of the expansive radiation of the Lord is manifested in the spiritual sky, Tripad Vibhuti, and 25% of his personal radiation comprehends the entire expansion of the material universe. This is also explained and stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.42. Thus, the 75% expansion of his radiation is called his internal energy, whereas the 25% expansion is called the external energy of the Lord. The living entities who are residents of the spiritual as well as the material expansions are his marginal energy, Tatastha Sakti, and they are at liberty to live in either of the energies, external or internal. Those who live within the spiritual expansion of the Lord are called liberated souls, whereas the residents of the external expansions are called the conditioned souls. We can just make an estimate of the number of the residents of the internal expansions in comparison with the number of residents in the external energy, and may easily conclude that the liberated souls are far more numerous than the conditioned souls.
Okay. Next. Somritasya martyam mannam yat adyatat mahi maisha tato brahman purushasya duratyaya. Read the translation purport.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of the immortality and fearlessness, and he is transcendental to the death and the fruitive actions of the material world. O Narada, O Brahmana, it is therefore difficult to measure the glories of the Supreme Person.
So now, there is example given in the previous verse, that is the 17th verse. What is the example? Example, sun illuminates itself as well as others, inside and outside. Antar bahipuman evam virajam pratapans tata tapatya antar bahipuman. The sun is hot, at the same time gives heat and makes other things hot. Same way, Supreme Lord, by his potencies, he is beyond this world. At the same time, by his potencies, he is this world. Both are simultaneously one and different. So the Lord is there beyond this world. At the same time, he is energizing this world with the three potencies: Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Dravya Shakti. Three Shaktis are there. And he spreads his influence everywhere in this world. There is nothing in this world which is unknown to Krishna. There is nothing in this world which is beyond the control of Krishna. And now, Brahma is speaking to Narada. He says, the Lord is full of bliss and is beyond this material world. Why? Because Mahisya tato Brahman Purushasya duratyayaha. Because of his duratya, duranto. You heard Duranto Express? Cannot be stopped. Most powerful. That is why this word duranta comes. It's because of his power, he is beyond. And his Amrita. Amrita means what? bliss. You cannot have bliss without fearlessness. So he gives fearlessness. Why is he called Amrita? Because he gives fearlessness, which is minimum happiness. If you have a lot of happiness in this world and fear, is there any use of happiness? No. Now you have a big plate of prasad in front of you, nice Seppan Bhog, just now offered, and you are very hungry. And somebody offers you and keeps a gun and says, eat. That is the situation. So if you are fearful, no amount of enjoyment can actually give you enjoyment. Corona is example. So much of fear was there, nobody could even enjoy. What to speak of any enjoyment? Even the enjoyment of family life was not there. Son or daughter comes from somewhere, they would be quarantined. Oh, no, don't touch me. Don't enter the house. Husband comes, wife says, no, please, don't touch me. Outside. So when fear is there, no enjoyment is possible. So because Krishna gives fearlessness, he gives complete enjoyment, bliss.
The glories of the Lord is the transcendental 75% of the Lord's internal potency, are stated in the Padma Purana, Uttarakhand. It is said there that those planets in the spiritual sky which comprises the 75% expansion of the internal potency of the Lord are far greater than those planets in the total universe composed of the external potency of the Lord. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, the total universes in the external potency of the Lord are compared to the basket full of mustard seeds. One bucket full of mustard seeds. One mustard seed is calculated to be the universe itself. In one of the universes in which we are now living, the number of planets cannot be counted by human energy, and so how can we think the sum total in all universes, which are compared to the bucket full of mustard seeds? And the planets in the spiritual sky are at least 3 times the number of those in the material sky. Such planets, being spiritual, are in fact transcendental to the material modes. Therefore, they are constituted in the mode of unalloyed goodness only. The conceptions of the spiritual bliss, Brahmananda, is fully present in those planets. Each of them is eternal, indestructible, and free from all kinds of inebrities experienced in the material world. Each of them is self-illuminating and more powerful, dazzling than, if you can imagine, the total sunshine of millions of mundane suns. The inhabitants of those planets are liberated from birth, death, old age, and disease, and have full knowledge of everything. They are all godly and free from all sorts of material hankerings. They have nothing to do there except to render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Narayan, who is predominating deity of such Vaikuntha planets. Those liberated souls are engaged incessantly in singing songs mentioned in Samaveda. All of Vede Sangha Pada Kramopanishader Gayantiyam Samagaha. All of them are personifications of the 5 Upanishads, Tripada Vibhuti, or the 75% known as the internal potency of the Lord is to be understood as the kingdom of God far beyond the material sky. And when we speak of Pada Vibhuti, or 25% comprising his external energy, we should understand that this refers to the sphere of material world. It is also said in Padma Puran that the kingdom of Tripada Vibhuti is transcendental, whereas the Pada Vibhuti is mundane. Tripada Vibhuti is eternal, whereas Pada Vibhuti is transient. The Lord and his eternal servitors in the transcendental kingdom all have eternal forms which are auspicious, infallible, spiritual, and eternally youthful. In other words, there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. That eternal land is full of transcendental enjoyment and full of beauty and bliss. This very fact is also corroborated in the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the transcendental nature is described as Amrita. As described in the Vedas, Utamritatva Seshanaha. The Supreme Lord is the Lord of immorality, or in other words,
Lord of
immortality, or in other words, the Lord is immortal.
So you have this Purusha Sutta mantra. Purusha ye vedagam sarvam yad bhavyam yad utamritattvaseshano idannenati rohati etavanasya mahimato jayagumscha purushaha padosya vishwabhutani trivadasya amritam divi. So in this mantra is explained in this particular verse. That is, Utamritattvaseshano means he is unlimited nectar, and he gives the nectar which is Amrita, which is beyond happiness beyond this world. Yadannena atirohati. Atirohati. Nobody can surpass the bliss which Krishna gives. And that is what is being described here. And then the next description is about Etavanasya mimato jayagumsa purushaha padosya vishwabhutani tripadasyaamritam divi. So he has got tripada vibhuti, that is padosya vishwabhutani. So this vishwabhutani, all the living entities in this world, they belong to pada, ekapada vibhuti. And where does he say, the Lord? Tripadasyaamritam divi. Tripada. Tripada means a 3/4. Pada means 1/4. Tripada means 3/4. So 75% is 3/4 is 75%. You should know what is 75% mean. Tripada vibhuti. Though it has been described as 1/4 and 3/4. 1/4 is also unlimited and 3/4 is also unlimited. Just to give you some idea of if this world itself is so vast, and that is just 1/4. Then what to speak of? 4th. Like the size of the soul has been described in Bhagavad Gita, in the quotation. What is this? Balagra. So you take the pinpoint of the hair and then cut into 100, and take that part and cut into 100 more. But that is also not the measurement of the soul. The soul is immeasurable. Aprameyasya. Aprameyasya avyayasya cha. So the soul's nature is aprameya, means which cannot be measured. And how can the measurement be given to the soul if it cannot be measured? The measurement is given just to tell you that it is immeasurable. The soul is as immeasurable as 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair. So 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair is not the measurement of the soul. It is only an indication of its immeasurability. In the same way, this measurement of 1/4 and 3/4 is not mathematical, it is philosophical. Okay? Read further.
In the Bhagavad Gita 18.16, the Lord also assures that whoever may go to his abode or immortality shall never return to this mortal land of threefold miseries. The Lord is not like the mundane Lord. The mundane master or Lord never enjoys equally with his subordinates, nor is a mundane Lord immortal, nor can he award immortality to his subordinate. The Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, can award all the qualities of his personality unto his devotees, including immortality and spiritual bliss. In the material world, there is always anxiety or fearfulness in the heart of all living entities, but the Lord, being himself the supreme fearless, also awards the same quality of fearlessness to his pure devotees. Mundane existence is itself a kind of fear, because in all mundane bodies the effect of birth, death, old age and disease always keep a living being compact in fear. In mundane world, there is always the influence of time which changes things from one stage to another, and the living entity, originally being avikara or unchangeable, suffers a great deal on account of changes due to the influence of time. The changing effect of eternal time are conspicuously absent in the immortal kingdom of God, which should therefore be understood to have no influence of time and therefore no fear whatsoever. In the material world, so-called happiness is the result of one's own work. One can become a rich man by dint of one's own hard labor, and there always fear and doubts as to the duration of such acquired happiness. But in the kingdom of God, no one has to endeavor to attain a standard of happiness. Happiness is the nature of the spirit, as stated in the Vedanta Sutras, Anandamayo Abhyasat. The spirit is by nature full of happiness. Happiness in the spiritual nature always increases in volume with a new phase of appreciation. There is no question of decreasing the bliss. Such unalloyed spiritual bliss is nowhere to be found within the orbit of material universe, including the Janaloka planets, or for that matter the Maharloka or Satyaloka planets, because even Lord Brahma is subjected to the laws of fruitive actions and the law of birth and death. It is therefore stated here, Duratyayaha, or in other words, spiritual happiness is the eternal kingdom of God, cannot be imagined even by the great brahmacharis or sannyasis who are eligible to be promoted to the planets beyond the region of heaven. Or the greatness of the Supreme Lord is so great that it cannot be imagined even by the great brahmacharis or sannyasis, but such happiness is factually attained by the unalloyed devotees of the Lord by His divine grace.
Padeshu sarva bhutani pumsastiti pado viduhu amritam kshemam abhayam trimurdno dhyati murdhasu. So padeshu sarva bhutani, and then pumsaha stiti pado viduhu amritam kshemam abhayam trimurdno dhyati murdhasu. There are some intelligent people or living entities. Where do they stay? They stay at the feet of the Lord. And that feet of the Lord protects everyone. And at that place, what is there? Amritam, there is eternity. Kshemam, there will be no disease. And Abhayam, there is no fear. Trimurdno dhyati murdhasu. And this place is beyond the three modes of material nature. So there is a comparison between the spiritual world and the material world, or Ekpad Vibhuti and the Tripada Vibhuti. Read the purport.
Purport. Out of the total manifestation of Sandhini energy of the Lord, 1/4 is displayed in the material world and 3/4 are displayed in the spiritual world. The Lord's energy is divided into three component parts, namely Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini. In other words, He is the full manifestation of existence, knowledge and bliss. In the material world, such a sense of existence, knowledge and pleasure is meagerly exhibited, and all living entities who are minute part and parcels of the Lord are eligible to relish such consciousness of existence, knowledge and bliss very minutely in the liberated stage, whereas in conditioned stage of material existence, they can hardly appreciate what is factual, existential, cognizable and pure happiness of life. The liberated souls who exist in far greater numerical strength than those in the material world can factually experience the potency of the above mentioned Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini energies of the Lord in matter of deathlessness, fearlessness and freedom from old age and disease. In the material world, the planetary system are arranged in three spheres called Triloka, or Swarga, Mritya and Patal. And all of them constitute only 1/4 of the total Sandhini energy. Beyond that that is the spiritual sky where Vaikunta planets exist beyond the covering of 7 material strata. In none of Triloka planetary systems can one experience the status of immortality, full knowledge and full bliss. The upper 3 planetary systems are called Sattvika planets because they provide facilities for a long duration of life and relative freedom from disease and old age, as well as sense of fearlessness. The great sages and saints are promoted beyond the heavenly planets to Maharloka, but that also is not the place of complete fearlessness, because at the end of one kalpa, the Maharloka is annihilated and the inhabitants have to transport themselves to still higher planets. Yet, even on these planets, no one is immune to death. There may be comparative extension of life, expansion of knowledge, and sense of full bliss, but factual deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from old age, disease, etc., are possible only beyond the material sphere of coverings of material sky. Such things are situated on the head. Adhyayi Murdhasu.
So, this verse talks about the mantra from the Purusha Sukta. Padosya Vishwa Bhutari Tribadasya Amritam Divi. So, Purusha Sukta talks about Pado Asya Vishwa Bhutari. So, all the living entities are there in the one pada. And Tribadasya Amritam Divi. In this verse you have this word Amrita, Kshemam, Abhayam, and this is in the Divi, means beyond this material world to spiritual world. Divi means the spiritual world here. Next. Padastrayo bodhischa san apajityanam cha ashrama antas trilokyastvaparo griha medo bribhat vrataha. Read the translation.
The spiritual world, which consists of 3/4 of the Lord's energy, is situated beyond this material world, and it is specially meant for those who will never be reborn. Others who are attached to family life and who do not strictly follow celibacy vows must live within the 3 material worlds.
So, Grihamedo Brihat Vrataha. So, they are Brihat Vrataha, those who are attached to the material world, and especially Grihameda, into family life, they go to the material world. That means 2 kinds of people. One who gets liberated, they go to the spiritual world. Pados Trayo Bhutis Chan Apara Jnanam Yaha Ashramaha. So those who have got spiritual knowledge, they go. And on those who don't have spiritual knowledge, test material world, they go to the material world. So the Purusha Sukta says, Tripadurdva Udait Purushaha Pado Shreya Bhavat Punaha. So those who are spiritual, they go to the Tripadurdvet Udait Purushaha. And those who are Abhavat Punaha, those who don't wish welfare to themselves, they come to this material world, that is Ekapada Vibhuti, and then they take birth again and again. Okay. So we don't read this purport because it is well known to you. We'll go to the 21st verse. Sriti vichakrame vishvam shashanana shane ubhe yad vidyacha purushastu bhayashraya. So the living entities attain 2 natures according to the 2 kinds of knowledge, vidya and avidya. Ubhe, there are 2 paths. Shana, Shanen, Ubhe. One is the path of enjoyment and this path of liberation. And ultimately, it is the Lord who is the Lord for both. Yad avidya cha vidya cha purushas tu ubhayas ashrayaha. Ubhaya ashraya. Krishna is ashraya for both. So read the translation, the purport.
Translation. By his energies, the all-pervading personality of Godhead is thus comprehensively the master in the activities of controlling and in devotional service. He is the ultimate master of both nescience and factual knowledge of all situations. Purport. The word Vishwan is significant in this verse. One who travels perfectly in every field of activity is called the Purusha or Kshetragya. These two terms, Kshetragya and Purusha, are equally applicable to both the individual self and the Supreme Self, the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 13.3, the matter is explained as follows. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragnayor jnanam yat tad jnanam matam mama. Kshetra means the place, and one who knows the place is called the Kshetragya. The individual self knows about his limited field of activities, but the Supreme Self, the Lord, knows about the unlimited field of activities. The individual soul knows about his own thinking, feeling and willing activities, but the Super Soul or the Paramatma, the Supreme Controller, being present everywhere, knows everyone's thinking, feeling and willing activities. And as such, the individual living entity is the minute master of his personal affairs, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of everyone's affairs, past, present and future. Vedaham samatitani, etc. Only the ignorant person does not know this difference between the Lord and the living entities. The living entities, as distinguished from incognizant matter, may be qualitatively equal to the Lord in cognizance, but the living entity can never be equal to the Lord in full knowledge of past, present and future. And because the living entity is partially cognizant, he is therefore sometimes forgetful of his own identity. This forgetfulness is specially manifested in the field of the Ekapad Vibhuti of the Lord or in the material world. But in the Tripada Vibhuti field of actions or in the spiritual world, there is no forgetfulness by the living entities who are free from all kinds of contaminations resulting from the forgetful state of existence. The material body is the symbol of the gross and subtle form of forgetfulness. Therefore, the whole atmosphere of the material world is called avidya or nescience, whereas the whole atmosphere of the spiritual world is called vidya or full of knowledge. There are different stages of avidya and they are called dharma, artha and moksha. The idea of moksha or liberation held by the monist in the matter of oneness of the living entity and the Lord by ultimate merging in one is also the last stage of materialism or forgetfulness. Knowledge of the qualitative oneness of the self and super self is partial knowledge and ignorance, also because there is no knowledge of quantitative difference, as explained above. The individual self can never be equal to the Lord in cognizance, otherwise he could not be placed in the state of forgetfulness. So because there is a stage of forgetfulness of the individual selves or the living entities, there is always a gulf of difference between the Lord and the living entity, as between the part and the whole. The part is never equal to the whole. So the conception of 100% quality equality of the living being with the Lord is also nescience. In the field of nescience, activities are directed toward lording it over the creation. In the material world, therefore, everyone is engaged in acquiring material opulence to lord it over the material world. Therefore, there is always clash and frustration, which are the symptoms of nescience. But in the field of knowledge, there is devotional service to the Lord, bhakti. Therefore, there is no chance of being contaminated by the influence of nescience or forgetfulness, avidya, in the liberated stage of devotional activities. The Lord is thus the proprietor of the fields both of nescience and of cognition, and it remains the choice of the living entity to exist in either of the above regions.
You have in the spiritual world your three potencies, that is Samvit, Sandhini and Hladini. And material world is a reflection of the spiritual world, perverted reflection. In the material world, what do you find? Three modes, Sattva, Rajas, Tama. You know what reflects as what? Okay, samvit. Vit means knowledge. Opposite is? Then sandhini. Existence. What makes you feel that you are going to exist, sustained, always? Sattva. And of course, haladini. Passion. So these three reflects in this world as three. And just for information. 20 seconds, just for the translation purpose. Yasmadandam viraj jagye bhutendriya gunatmakaha tadravyam tad yagat vishvam gobhisurya ivatapam. So example is given of the sun to show that Gobihi Surya Ivatapam. The rays of the sun, which is spread everywhere, rays and heat are spread everywhere. The sun is different and the sun rays are different. In the same way, the Lord is spread everywhere in the form of His energy. At the same time, He is beyond it. That is why Yasmad Andam Virajagne. From Him, this Andam, this whole Brahmandas come. Bhutendriya Gunatmakaha. Bhuta, Indriya, Guna, Gunatmaka. Means the modes of nature produce the Panchamahabhutas and all the Indriyas. Tadravyam Atyagad Vishwam. And all the universes are coming from Him. Atyagat. At the same time, He is Atyagat, He is beyond Vishwam. So whatever has been established before has been spoken again here as a summary. So 23rd verse. Yadasyanaabhyam nalinat ahamasam mahatmanah navidam yajna sambharan purusha vyavyayan rite. Now Brahma is talking about himself. Yadasyanaabhyam nalinat. From the Nabhi of the universal form, what came out? Nalina. Nalina means Nalin. That is flower, lotus flower. Nalinat, from the lotus flower. I was born. And then, Na vidam yajna sambharam. I wanted to worship Him. Then I had no ingredients, how to worship. Purusha savyamriti. Because I could not find anything else other than Purusha avayavan. Lord Brahma saw the whole world and he saw that everything is nothing but the avayavas of Purusha. So that is called self-realization. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chami pashyati tasyam pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. To see Krishna everywhere. That is a perfection of initiation or getting knowledge. That is to see Krishna everywhere. And what is the meaning of I have got knowledge? We all know Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter, where Krishna says that if you want to tadviddi pranipatena pariprashyena sevaya upadekshantite jnanam jnanas tattvadarshana. So you got knowledge from the spiritual master. Yajñatva, once you have got the knowledge, na punarmoham evam yashasi pandava yena bhutana seshani. Whatever living entities or anything you see. Now what is the meaning of bhuta? Bhuta means something which is emanated. It's called bhuta. But something which emanates from your body and roams around it. It's called bhuta. Everything is actually bhuta. Ena bhutana seshani. Drakshasi means see. You should see as Atman yathomai. One who sees that everything belongs to Krishna, or like everything is Krishna. So that is the perfection of getting knowledge. Brahma could see that. What did he see? that Purusha Avayavan Rite. He could not see anything else other than the Supreme Personality of God's limbs. Then he thought, how can I worship him? Because everything is him. How can I worship him? Because everything is him. So then he thought, yes, I will worship him by himself. Like you worship earth by flowers. Where did a flower come from? Earth only. You worship Ganga by its own water. So you worship Krishna by Krishna. So you are worshipping Krishna by Krishna, and the process is also given by Krishna. So that what happens? You also become Krishna. The result also become Krishna. Hey, you're teaching my word. What I can do? Krishna spoke this thing. Brahma Arpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, Brahmanautam, Brahmena Teva Kantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Okay. So read, very interesting. The translation purport. Brahma is giving his realization to his son Narada. 23rd.
When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord, Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except the bodily limbs of the great personality of Godhead. Purport. Lord Brahma, the creator of the cosmic manifestation, is known as Swayambhu, or one who is born without father and mother. The general process is that a living creature is born out of the sex combination of the male father and the female mother. But Brahma, the firstborn living being, is born out of the abdominal lotus flower of the Mahavishnu, plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. The abdominal lotus flower is part of the Lord's bodily limbs, and Brahma is born out of the lotus flower. Therefore, Lord Brahma is also part of the Lord's body. Brahma, after his appearance in the gigantic hollow of the universe, saw darkness and nothing else. He felt perplexity, and from his heart he was inspired by the Lord to undergo austerity, thereby acquiring the ingredients for sacrificial performances. But there was nothing besides the two of them, namely the personality of Mahavishnu and Brahma himself, born of the bodily part of the Lord. For sacrificial performances, many ingredients were in need, especially animals. The animal sacrifice is never meant for killing the animal, but for achieving the successful result of the sacrifice. The animal offered in the sacrificial fire is, so to speak, destroyed, but the next moment it is given a new life by dint of the Vedic hymns chanted by the expert priest. When such an expert priest is not available, the animal sacrifice in the fire of the sacrificial altar is forbidden. Thus Brahma created even the sacrificial ingredients out of the bodily limbs of the Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, which means that the cosmic orders was created by Brahma himself. Also, nothing is created out of nothing, but everything is created from the person of the Lord. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. Everything is made from my bodily limbs, and I am therefore the original source of all creations.
So the whole point is that Brahma's realization is everything he created, it was actually Lord only, and he used everything which is being created for the worship of the Lord. The whole purpose of creation is worship of the Lord. Okay? 24th. Teshu yajnasya pashava sarvan asaptayas pushaha idam cha devai ejnam kalashuru gunanvitaha. Read the translation.
For performing sacrificial ceremonies, one requires sacrificial ingredients such as flowers, leaves, and straw, along with the sacrificial altar and a suitable time, spring.
And what else you require for sacrifices? Vastunyaushadaya sneha rasaloha mrudo jalam rucho yajushmi samani chaturhotram cha sattama. Just read the translation.
Other requirements are utensils, grains, clarified butter, honey, gold, earth, water, the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda and Sama Veda, and 4 priests to perform the sacrifice.
We know the 4 priests' names?
Hota,
Advayar, Hota, Advayar, Brahma, Udghata. 4 priests are required for each Veda. And there are other things which are necessary for sacrifice. What are they? Namadeyani mantrascha, dakshinascha, vratani cha, devatanukramah kalpaha, sankalpas tantramevacha. Read.
Other necessities include invoking the different names of the demigods by specific hymns and vows of recompense in accordance with the particular scripture for specific purposes and by specific processes.
What is the meaning of Tantra? Tantra.
Particular process.
Yeah. What is mantra? What is yantra? How many of you worship yantra? Yes, everybody is worshipping yantra. The deity is the yantra. And you worship the deity with a mantra. And the process is called tantra. Isn't it? Devotees get afraid hearing the word tantra. Hey, tantra. You're also doing the same. Gatayo matayaschaiva prayischittam samarpanam purusha vairyete sambhara samvritamaya. What other things which Brahma got?
Thus, I had to arrange all these necessary ingredients and paraphernalia of sacrifice from the personal bodily parts of the personality of Godhead. By invocation of the demigods' names, the ultimate goal, Vishnu, was gradually attained, and thus compensation and ultimate offering were complete.
Okay, so he did the sacrifice. Now he says, Iti samvrata sambhara purusha vairaham tamyeva purusham yajnam tene vayajnamishwaram. Read.
Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord.
Okay, fine. So why did Brahma create this world? That's all. To worship the Lord. Full and final. Like people say, oh, Bhagavan ne banaya hamare bhog ke liye. Nahi. Brahma created everything in this world. Is there anything useless in this world? No. We don't know its use. That is a different thing. If at all anybody is useless, is me. Everything has its use. Otherwise there is a creation. Oh, it's useless, it's useless. It's actually nothing even useless. Everything has its use. Even poison has its use. Isn't it? Even poison has its use, which kills. It has use. So many herbs, so many things are there. So many creatures, the insects, everything, they are all having some use. And if the use, ultimate use, to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Bhokta. Next. Tataste bhratara ime prajanam patayo nava ayajan vyaktam avyaktam purusham susamahita. Read the translation.
My dear son, therefore, thereafter, your 9 brothers, who are the masters of living creatures, perform the sacrifice with proper rituals to satisfy both the manifested and non-manifested personalities.
So they also continue the same sacrifice. Tatascha manava kale nijire rishayo pare vedaro vibudha daitya manushyaha krita vibhum. Read the translation.
Thereafter the Manus, the father of mankind, the great sages, the forefathers, the learned scholars, the Daityas and mankind perform sacrifices meant to please the Supreme Lord.
So meant to please the Supreme Lord, they all did. They continued this parampara of sacrifice. Narayane Bhagavati Tadidam Vishwamahitam Grihita Mayur Gunaha Sargadva Agunah Swataha. Read.
All the material manifestations of the universes are therefore situated in his powerful material energies, which he accepts self-sufficiently, although he is eternally without affinity for the material modes.
So though he is beyond the modes of nature, he accepts the modes. He accepts means that is not contaminated by it. That should be understood. Read the purports. Very interesting to know. Interesting purport.
The question put by Narada before Brahma concerning the sustenance of the material creation is thus answered.
So what is the answer? What is the question? If you see the verse, some adhishthanam. Adhishthanam is being answered in this particular verse. You remember till now how many questions are answered? How many questions were asked? 6 plus 4. 6 plus 4 are there. You go to that 5th chapter, 2nd verse and the 4th verse. 2nd verse has 6, the 4th verse has 4. Till now, what all been answered? See, first one is what? First question is what? Yad Rupam. Next, Adhishthanam. Next, Esprishtam. Esprishtam means how it is being created, the process. 4th one is what? That is the thing which is being answered here. Read the full purport.
Material actions and reactions, as the material scientist can superficially observe, are not basically ultimate truth in regard to creation, maintenance and destruction. The material energy is a potency of the Lord which is displayed in time, according to the 3 qualities, accepting the 3 qualities of goodness, passion and ignorance in the forms of Vishnu, Brahma and Shiva. The material energy thus works under the supreme spell of his lordship. Although he is always transcendental to all such material activities, a rich man constructs a big house by spending his energy in the shape of resources, and similarly he destroys a big house by his resources, but the maintenance is always under his personal care. The Lord is the richest of the rich because he is always fully complete in 6 opulences. Therefore, he is not required to do anything personally, but everything in the material world is carried out by his wishes and direction. Therefore, the entire material manifestation is situated in Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is due to lack of knowledge only, and this fact is clearly explained by Brahmaji, who is supposed to be the creator of the universal affairs. Brahmaji is the highest authority in Vedic wisdom, and his assertion is this connection is therefore the supreme information.
So now after Adhishthanam, Yat Paraha, who is superior to you, that is being described. Srijamitam yuktoham haro harati tatvashaha vishvam purusha rupena haripati trishaktidrik. So I myself, Vishnu, I create, Lord Shiva destroys, he himself maintains. By doing so, by speaking about this, and then he says, he is the controller of all the 3. Supreme Lord is the controller of all the 3. In this way, Brahma himself is telling, Paraha, who is superior to me? The Supreme Lord is, Krishna is superior to me. So read the translation.
By his will I create, Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself in his eternal form as personality of Godhead maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of all these 3 energies. Purport. The conception
Purport is not required. That's understood. Because the Lord is superior to Brahma, that is established. Next. Iti te vihitam tata yetedam anuprachasi na nyat bhagavata kinchit bhavyam sadatmakam. Now Brahma says to Narada, whatever you have asked, I have explained to you. Read the translation and purport.
My dear son, whatever you inquired from me, I have thus explained unto you. And you must know for certain that whatever there is, either as cause or as effect, both in material and spiritual worlds, is dependent on Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The complete cosmic situation, both in material and in spiritual manifestations of the energies of the Lord, is working and moving first as the cause and then as effect. But the original cause is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Effects of the original cause become the causes of other effects, and thus everything, either permanent or temporary, is working as cause and effect. And because the Lord is primeval cause of all persons and all energies, He is called the cause of all causes, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita as well as in Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Samhita affirms, Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. And in Bhagavad Gita 10.8 it is said, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. So the original primeval cause is Vigraha, the personal and the impersonal spiritual effulgence, Brahma Jyoti, is also an effect of Supreme Brahman. Brahmano hi pratishtaham, Lord Krishna.
Okay, we stop here from the next verse onwards till the end of the chapter. Lot of Mayavad Khandan is there, so we will do it afresh tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, we have one small announcement. Tomorrow's class will be from 3:30 to 5:30. Tomorrow being appearance day of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. We will not have class in the morning time. We will have in the afternoon 3:30 to 5:30, same place. Hare Krishna.